What is it about Leicester-Tottenham games that just keeps producing goal after goal after goal?
Yeah, second-tier champions Leicester make their Premier League return tonight. They host Spurs live and exclusive on talkSPORT. Steve Cooper's first game in charge, of course. Pretty daunting one, I think. While Ange Postecoglou is aiming to build on a fifth-place finish last season, having brought in Dominic Solanke, Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall and Wilson Odobert. Ali, I mean, Spurs have spent quite selectively in some ways.
They have, which they normally do. All right, I'll tell you right now. I mean, Solanke has a terrific season, as we know. We've been interested in watching very carefully to see if they were going to get an out-and-out centre forward to replace Harry Kane. It looks like that's the way they've gone about it. Archie Gray, I think, terrific prospect. I thought they, enjoyed watching him with Leeds last year. I think rather one or two shrewd signings. I'm looking forward to seeing Spurs this year, I've got to say. I mean, they're one of these sides, Jeff. Home and away, you love watching them.
Yeah.
I saw a few home games that were absolutely amazing. Then I saw them at Newcastle and they were appalling. I think there's a bit of a lack of consistency, but generally speaking, you get your money's worth if you watch Spurs week in, week out, and I'm looking forward to seeing them against Leicester tonight.
Yeah, they are always entertaining under Ange, no question about that. Ollie Skip, by the way, is on his way from Spurs to Leicester. Fee around £20 million. He underwent a medical yesterday. Adrian Durham, your host from 7 at the King Power, alongside commentator Sam Matterface and former Liverpool midfielder Danny Murphy. Now, it was an all too familiar start for Everton on Saturday.
Everton have just made a substitution which proved very unpopular. Mason Holgate, back from his loan spell, was brought on for Jack Harrison, and he was booed onto the field as Brighton make it 3-0. As easy as that, and that is the signal for thousands of Everton fans to stand up and head for the exits. The ball comes to a Dingra on the edge of the area. The first half substitute, he dips inside on his left foot and he curls it into that same bottom corner that Danny Welbeck found earlier in this half to put the game well and truly to bed.
3 seasons of battling relegation for Everton, and 90 minutes in, Ali, is it an exaggeration to say that it looks like a fourth season that battling relegation could be on the cards?
I think it's just slightly early to say that. Obviously they're up against, I think, watching the game, and as I say, I only saw the highlights. I think Brighton scored their first slightly against their run of play. I thought Matoma comes into the back post, finishes it well. Yeah. I thought Welbeck's finish I mentioned earlier was first class, Jeff. Beautifully composed finish, cuts in, moves it from his right to his left, and side foots it. I wouldn't be pressing the panic buttons just yet, but it was a little bit of it was an eye opener for me, because I thought particularly at home, final season at the old stadium, I think that they'll have enough there to have quite a kind of settled season, if you like, but that was a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, one of my boys, Matt, he's a big Brighton fan, he was there, and he said that until Brighton scored the opening goal, Everton were the better side, that Brighton actually started pretty slowly, but from then on, of course, Brighton bossed the game. Joining us now for more on the Seagulls' great start, a man who played more than 100 times for them, Adam Virgo. Morning, Adam.
Good morning, Adam.
Morning, boys.
Hey, Adam, I mean, a great start for Fabian Hürzeler. Did you detect any sort of difference in style from the De Zerbi era?
There were similarities to many senses, but I really felt there was such a high press from Brighton early on. They're prepared to play in their triangles in their own box and just playing out from the back still. So there is that similarity to what Roberto De Zerbi brought into Brighton, but I really think they are trying to press a lot higher up the field to close the ball down, whereas I think Roberto almost entitled teams to come on with the ball and then play on the counter-attack afterwards. I think Brighton are certainly playing with a lot higher press, and the defensive line is really, really high, and that is a concern over pre-season. What was from my intake from it is that they will score goals, but they also will concede goals. Even though they came away with clean sheets on the weekend, they did have their problems probably in the first 20 minutes, as Ali said.
It's funny, Adam, looking at it, I mean, is there a better run club in that top flight? Because we look at Brighton, and whether it's a change of players or managers or coaches, it just seems seamless.
Well, it does, and that's full credit to Paul and Tony that run the club so well. You're talking about Chelsea. You look about the amount of players that are not in the squad there. You even look at Everton on the weekend, where there just seems to be, if you take a manager out of the club in the Premier League, you come time to see the panic button hitting. And where do we go? What do we do? Brighton have done it again. They've gone into Germany. If you look who they've signed over the summer, unless you're a European connoisseur of the transfer market, you're not really going to heard of a lot of these players. So they've got their philosophy, they've got their way of signing players. And yes, they've lost Pascal Gross over the summer, but I do think for the first time, probably in a long time, that they've not lost key players that have been really, really, really important. I think Pascal was the right time, right place, and I think the club kind of let him go on with their full grace. He was a fantastic servant for the club. But I agree with you, Ali. I would find it very, very difficult to find a better run club in the Premier League from top to bottom.
Yeah,
and they are exciting to say the least. Going forward, Adam, I mean, they're going to scare the pants off people with the pace that they've got in wide areas with Mitoma and Minte.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the first goal was a prime example of that. And I was pleased for Mitoma, because I remember him scoring a goal against Wolves last season when he brought it up in his own box and he ran the whole way and scored it. And I think he's had those moments. Yes, he's had injuries, but I think it's a really, really key season for him to have a full pre-season, which is really, really important. But that pace on the counter-attack is, even when you saw with the goals, that really shows where Brighton are at. And if you play Brighton in the wrong way with the ball and you leave space in behind, I think they're going to be a real force. But I still feel, and I've said this for a while now, I still think someone like Danny Welbeck's so important to the way that they play, his experience down the middle. He doesn't score many goals, but the way that he links up play and the way that he leads that line, I think is so important. And I even felt that last season with Brighton.
Adam, I was going to ask you before I let you go, James Milner obviously in the middle of the park, Matt's Vifer. The reason I'm asking that, no starting position for Billy Gilmore. Do you think Billy will be there at the end of the window?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've certainly heard a lot of interest from Italy. But it's one of those things that if Brighton feel that they can get the right price for him, they've brought in the right players, then it might be time for Billy to move on. It's a strange one, because I felt he had his best season last year for Brighton when he played so well in the midfield. He's shown it when he's gone to Scotland, that how important he is in that midfield as well. Probably judging between the lines, that I'll be surprised if I see Billy at Brighton come the end of the transfer window. But if he goes, then I think he's been another good servant for the club.
Yeah. Adam, just you mentioned him just there in passing. We've got to mention James Milner. His 23rd consecutive Premier League season. For goodness sake, he's 7 years older than the manager. Were you surprised to see him start?
No, because again, he kind of brings that calmness on the ball. I mean, shows how old I am. I mean, I remember playing against him when he was at Swindon when he was 15. I've been retired 11 years now, and he's still playing. But what he brought to Europe, I think he's played for 5 clubs in Europe now. I played against him when he was at Aston Villa. He's just a wonderful player. You don't get to that level of standards and the longevity without being a great professional off the field, the dedication that you show to the game. And I'm not surprised at all. I think he'll still play like Danny Welbeck. Those experienced players still have a massive part to play in any squad.
Brilliant, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Manchester United coming up at the weekend. Thanks very much indeed for that. That's going to be an interesting game, isn't it? Brighton, Manchester United. By the way, James Milner, I had the pleasure of spending a couple of hours with him earlier in the course of this year. Top man as well as a top professional, and I did a podcast with him, but his preparation, even for the podcast, was brilliant, and you can just see
outstanding career. You can see why.
Total.
His work ethic, everything about him.
I think he's a perfectionist, and absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Perfect start for Brighton.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.